Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Dr. Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Dr. Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner, share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Dr. Tina.
Before we begin, I want to name what this month holds. Through the month of March, I am dedicating the episodes to my late husband, Mark Cornwall. He left this world 9 years ago. In fact, yesterday, March 11th. And each episode this month is part of intentional space of remembrance, reflection, and honesty. These conversations may feel a little different than a typical podcast. Some moments are spoken directly to Mark, some communications to you, and some are love continuing out loud. If you're joining mid-month, you're exactly where you need to be. You need to be here. This is not a series that requires catching up, only presence. Mark, I'm speaking to you and to you again today and letting others listen in. Mark, yesterday was the 9th anniversary of your passing. That is hard, the reality of that to me, that it has been 9 years since I held your hand, since I heard your voice, the day you died, the day you transitioned, the day you left this world. And for me, soon as March hits, I start having underlying anxiety, tension, and just thinking. My mind starts playing over the events of what happened leading up to your passing, how we spent time together the day before. We went to the movies, went out to eat. And the furthest thing from my mind that I would leave Delaware without you. The events go over in my mind, coming to home-based guest housing, running up the steps, and us just feeling like we were being kids and hanging out. And I left something in the car. We went back down to get it without any fussing. And it was just simple. We went out to eat, went to the movies, finished walking so I could get my required amount of steps for the day. Never would have thought that that would have been the last time you made love to me, the last time you held me tight. And all of those thoughts just come flooding back. I will say it's not as in technicolor as it was originally, but the thoughts and the memories exist. Yes, I took off from work. I cannot work on your deathversary. It just doesn't. My mind is drifting off other places, and it's not fair to the people I work with, and it's not fair to me. And I don't think it's fair to you, Mark. It's worth honoring, just like your birthday to me. And this has such a great impact how my life changed when you left this world. Do you know how heavy today, the 12th, still feels? It's like a hangover. It's like the feelings leading up to the day is a lot of stress. The day itself doesn't always feel that much pressure. And then the day after is like a balloon releasing and just what's left. Or maybe like I ate too much food and I'm sitting there with that overgorged feeling. Each part of this timeline impacts me differently. But the anxiety building up is worse than the day of. And then the day after has that lingering effect. Maybe like when you had a cold and you took too much cold medicine and you sort of have that washed out feeling. That's what the day after feels like for me. Do you know how my body remembers even when the calendar moves on? I did not know, Mark, until you passed, how much my body would be involved in this grief process. I literally thought grief was no more than being sad for a certain period of time, and then that sadness would go away. In some way or another, I would just drift back into life. I was so wrong. I was so wrong. The inability to sleep, the inability to focus, the inability for my body just to behave the way it did before you died drove me to reading books about grief, talking to therapists, talking to other men and women who had lost spouses to understand, is this how it really feels? And it was confirmed to me in so many different ways that this is what grief looks like. And I am so grateful for every conversation that I had with every person, helping me to lean in and to live in my life in your absence. Because if not, I think I would have thought I was crazy. I would have felt like, how is it this complicated? But having those conversations with people, not podcasts, but talking to friends who had lost loved ones and understanding on a personal level, this is how it feels. It was validating for me. And it helped me understand every therapist session, every conversation I had to know grief is heavy and it does impact my body. Do you know how alone the day after can feel? It's like you're in a room full of people, but you feel like you're by yourself. Yes, I have remarried. Yes, Alexander is close by. Yes, my mom and sister live next door. But there is something different about this world to me that you no longer breathe in, Mark. And the sense of loneliness, I think it resonates more with the idea of lack of connection with you, that there is something that I think that will always be missing. That space that you filled in my heart, what our relationship was, in your absence, it is gone. And that is not replaceable. And I love you. And 9 years later, I still love you, and I always will. This part of the conversation is for you, the listeners. Naming March 12th as an overlooked day in grief. And I want to talk about what that looks like for me and ask you to think about what it looks like for you. A lot of times we talk about anticipatory grief, getting ready, the idea of this major day coming up. And a lot of people understand that. And then the day that we may be dreading, it may be Mark's birthday, it may be Father's Day, his death versary. But a lot has not really been given weight to how we feel the day after. And I have learned I need self care the day after. I have learned that I don't have the capacity just to show up the way that I normally do. I didn't realize how much the day after impacted me, but 9 years later, for me, I have learned that that day after requires me to pay attention to myself, how I feel, how I engage, how I operate, and how I show up in life. So I clear my schedule because I don't want to be bothered. I don't have the energy to do it, and I'm not going to pretend. Why the day after milestone is often harder, because now for me, it's officially 9 years later. 9 years. And I think about 365 days times 9. How many moments have passed? What have I forgotten about Mark that was so obvious to me before? What is it about him that is further away now than it was that day of? That I am continuing to live life without my husband? That I am now older than Mark was when he died? That I am continuing to live my life? I know I have his blessing, his permission, because we actually talked about what life would look like in the absence of one of us and what we wanted for the remaining person. But me living, me being remarried, me existing does not take away the love, does not take away the absence of his presence, does not take away the pain of his death. I have learned that the duality exists. And officially now being 9 years Mark Cornwall's widow is heavy. And I am of the opinion I will always be a widow. And some people, you can choose to argue me on that, but unless he comes back into this world, I am his widow because I was his wife when he took his last breath. And I will forever be Mark Cornwall's widow. Even though I have remarried, I still carry his last name. That he will always be my husband, and I will always be his widow. And unless you can tell me something different that I am not his widow, please let me know. So, 9 years today, being Mark Cornwall's widow is a weight that I will carry my entire life. Reassurance nothing is wrong with needing recovery times. Please, the one thing I have learned, I cannot do it all. The one thing I have learned, his death impacts me today. I expect 12 years from now, this day may still impact me because it's how I have learned to honor him on his birthday, on Father's Day, on other different days that have meaning to me and what my relationship was to Mark. And I deserve it. And I believe it's worth making the time for that. And what that looks like for me, like I said earlier, is clearing my schedule, realizing I don't have the ability to show up and I'm not going to pretend. I take the weight off of myself so I can be free to feel how I feel without having extra responsibilities. So if you feel like you have less energy, you have a less functioning capability, consider what it would look like if you remove some of the pressure from your life and allowed yourself to be a little lighter, less responsible, and to focus on you. And self care can look like different things for different people. Self care may be sleeping in when you normally get up at 4 a.m. Self care may be picking up that book that I wanted to read or the audiobook or going for an extra long walk to be able to just take in life, fresh air, the existence of the world around us. But whatever self care looks like for you, I encourage you to use it for your own well being. How the first day after in 2017 looks different than now in 2026. Wow. The first day after Mark died, I was in disbelief. I was numb. I was in a hotel on base in Dover, Delaware, on a military installation, waking up with room full of people that had traveled from Pennsylvania, from Virginia, New Jersey, and waking up and going, this was not a bad dream. Mark died yesterday. That really happened. I really was in that hospital room, banging on the floor, crawling up on the bed next to his body in disbelief. Yesterday, I really made plans to transport his body from Delaware to Pennsylvania. This really happened. I'm about to go home to Pennsylvania and plan my husband's funeral. Devastated, disbelief, but yet knowing that it was real. And at the same time, so grateful for my tribe, so grateful for my family and friends that showed up for me because I had no capacity to be there myself. I couldn't drive. I couldn't talk. I couldn't function. People were doing things for me, and I was just an observer in my own life in shock. Remember Jennifer bringing me home, her and Paul bringing my car back, Monica and Jay bringing Mark's car back, and coming into the house and falling on the floor and thinking, it will never be the same. This house will never be the same, and I will never be the same woman that I was. And realizing how fragile life is, how quickly it can change unbeknownst. And at the same time, so very grateful that I was there with you, Mark, when you died. You were an amazing father, husband, friend, lover, confidant, my strength. I am so glad I was there with you. That was your appointed time to leave this world, and you deserve to have your wife with you. And I am glad that I was there. Today, 9 years later, I am still just as glad that I was there. I think I would have wrestled with so much guilt, so much what ifs, so much wondering what would have happened if I was there. And having that closure is a gift that you gave me, and God, I feel like you gave to me to be there for my husband. I look back more now, honoring our love, thinking of our children, the life that we lived together, and how grateful I am that I had you in my life for 32 years. You were a gift, and I am so glad that my life included being with you. How my body reacts then versus now. No sleep. I mean, like zero sleep. Like, just being up all the time in the middle of the night, just staring at paint, walking up and down the house that we had in Pennsylvania, trying to figure out if the door is locked in the basement, or going up and down the stairs, checking this lock, checking that lock, sitting there just wide awake, wondering when I was going to die, if I was going to make it through the year, the anxiety, the stress, the level of fear, and just being stressed out, wondering, when will it be my time? Am I going to make it through this year? My blood pressure going up and all those different things. I moved the elliptical into the front room because I was like, if I'm going to be awake, then let me be grinding. Because both of the kids had left the house, they were in the military, and I was home alone. So I'm in this 2,600 square foot house, wide awake when I would normally be asleep. Blew my mind. How unsettled I was, how in disbelief, and just wondering what would my future hold. Because everything I had planned in my life was what Mark and I would do, what Mark and Tina would do. I did not even know how to say my name by myself. I was so used to saying Mark and Tina that when I said Tina, it didn't seem like it was enough. I had to tell myself, I am still enough. Telling myself, waking up every day going, Tina, Mark died. You're still alive. And reminding myself that my existence meant that I had purpose and there was a reason why I was here. Now, I don't wonder those things. I do sleep better. I honor my relationship with Mark, and I am grateful to be able to know I'm more stable emotionally. I don't think that when specific days happen because my emotions change, that I'm going backwards in my grief. I understand this is part of grieving. I understand that this is what grief looks like for me. In the beginning, there was so much unknown. I hadn't read all the books. I hadn't had all the podcasts, hadn't spoken to so many mental health professionals. I hadn't become Dr. Tina Fornwald. There's a lot I've learned. And at the same time, I know there is so much more for me to learn on this journey for me personally. What has quiet taught me? I embrace quietness in a way that I never did before. That chair over there, that is where I spend time snuggling up with a book and reading and just the silence. I don't need something in the background. I don't need different noises going on, just silence. I can sit on the porch and read something and just enjoy the moment that I have because I realize it can be gone so very quickly. I embrace silence in a way that I never did before. I would have needed the radio on the phone, playing something in the background. Silence is a haven for me, and it is good enough, and I enjoy it. Next question. Why grief doesn't run on dates? It's forever for me. I grieve Mark in some form or fashion every day. It looks different because I'm different. But those sneaky moments where grief comes in and surprises me. I fell down the steps in my house and had a knee brace, a lot of physical therapy. And I was just thinking, wow, I fell. I fell down the steps. I sort of grieved my lack of mobility. I learned that grief is not singular focused on Mark's death. The different attributes as it relates to grief, I've allowed myself to experience that in any loss that I've had. Before Mark's death, I would have limited grief to him dying. Now I understand anytime that I am reaching out for something and it does not respond, I am grieving that. And I give myself permission and space to understand when it happens is when it happens. How I feel is how I feel about it. It may be connected to a date or it may not. In either way, it is fine. Why emotional fog is not failure. I didn't even know what the word emotional fog was or grief brain. In understanding that being in a room where my husband had a heart attack, fell on the floor is traumatic. It is a trauma situation. And my brain is trying to protect me from the full impact of that traumatic situation. And that fogginess is what I have come to realize that that is my prefrontal cortex shifting how it is operating and how my amygdala is shifting how it is operating. In that fog in my brain is my body naturally, purposefully, intentionally trying to help me out because I feel like I'm a computer glitching going overload, overload. We can't do this. And the body, being uniquely designed, already knew how to step in and take care of what I could not do organically. Needed to slow down the pace, remove some of the cognitive skills, and be very baseline minimal because I couldn't do it all. And the body knew that. And part of protecting me was the brain fog. And I think it is amazing how we have been created and how we work and how the brain fog is important. And for me, as life started to shift and the brain fog lifted, it felt like to me sort of like when you're in a plane and your ear starts popping and you hear differently than what you did before. Like you didn't realize how numb everything was until you realize that you're hearing better. And that's what the brain fog was like for me. I could start seeing it lift. And what I've learned when I go through these death versaries or different timelines, that fog returns. Before the first time it happened, I was like, oh my gosh, all the coping skills, all the different things I've been doing, my grief, it's not working. I'm going backwards. And I realized that's not the case. The trauma's starting to creep up and the brain is doing what it does to help protect me. And I embrace it now. And I consider it a signal. Clear your schedule, Tina. What's going on? What dates are happening? What have you missed? And I take special attention to make sure that I'm doing that. What healing actually looks like now versus then. Whiskey sours. I had way too many whiskey sours that first year, but I had a bartender on tap that was making me sure that it was A-okay. After the first year, I didn't need them so much. And for me, this year, what it looks like more is being honest about how much I miss Mark, how much I love him, how much I was devastated. And still parts of me are today. When our daughter got married and her dad was not there. Ugh, when our son turned 25 and his dad was not there. Knowing that there will always be something in my life that will cue in that Mark Cornwall is not here to celebrate or enjoy this moment, but I can bring his memory. I can bring who he is into the conversation. Permission to rest instead of being strong. In the beginning of this conversation, I mentioned, I believe, about how I thought that you had to just be sad when you were grieving, and that grief was just about sadness. I also thought that you were supposed to be strong for your children, that you would maybe it's that army woman in me that I'm supposed to be strong for Catherine and Alexander, that I'm supposed to hold up and be with my shoulders back and be in there. And I was like, I can't do that. My whole husband died. I have nothing but tears and lamenting and going, how did we get here? So even though that concept, I wanted to be strong outwardly, I realize now I don't have energy for that. If I'm sad, I'm sad. If I'm crying, I'm crying. And on top of it, I cried so much that I did not want to have those little tissues on me. And I found a pack of handkerchiefs that Mark owned, and he had never opened them. And these were my cry cloth because I was like, oh, I'm going to cry. And then I remembered one day I didn't have to cry as much as I did. I don't remember the timeline, but I just remember not having to keep these handkerchiefs all the time. But I was prepared in an instant to bring them back out if it was necessary because this is hard. This is one of the most difficult things I've experienced in my entire life. And I'm going to be out there with all of my emotions because my whole husband died. I don't have time for one line platitudes or people feel like that they're giving me help and they're not. Don't have time for any of that. I am more willing to openly show my emotions to whosoever than try to look like I am being strong. And so, if you have questions, let me know. Mark, I made it through another one. I made it through the ninth year of the anniversary of your passing. And I have learned to be gentle with myself. I have learned to be gentle with the kids. I have learned that I carry you, Mark, differently in my heart than what I did before. I am so grateful. I cannot say it enough how grateful I am that you are in my life, that you were my husband, that we had life together. I'm so glad that we talked about what one of our lives would look like in the absence of the other. I love you, Mark Cornwall, and I am so grateful. As I close today, I want to return this space to you, Mark. Thank you for the love that continues even as it changes shape. Thank you for the ways you still walk with me through memory, meaning, and presence. To those listening, thank you for sharing this time with me. I hope you feel less alone and more permitted to honor your love in whatever way feels right. We'll continue holding this space together throughout the rest of March.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune in to Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then, visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.